Some houses are born bad, others have darkness thrust upon them. But the house at 112 Ocean Avenue in Amityville, New York, is different. It absorbed a massacre, and then, for 28 terrifying days, it began to bleed that horror back out onto a new, unsuspecting family. This is the true story of what happened inside that house. A story so terrifying, it forced a family to flee in the middle of the night, leaving everything they owned behind. Before it was a haunted house, it was a crime scene, resting under a pall of unnatural silence. On the cold, damp night of November 13th, 1974, in the idyllic waterfront town of Amityville, something broke. A 23-year-old man named Ronald Butch DeFeo Jr., armed with a .35 caliber Marlin rifle, moved methodically through his family's grand Dutch colonial home. He went to his parents' bedroom, and then to the rooms of his 4 younger siblings, and ended their lives as they slept. The act was one of savage brutality, but it was the details that etched the crime into the annals of the bizarre. The Suffolk County Police were baffled. All 6 victims were found in their beds, lying face down, as if in a deep, peaceful sleep. There were no signs of a struggle, no sedatives in their systems. Most unnerving of all, no one in the quiet, closely packed suburban neighborhood reported hearing any gunshots. The rifle DeFeo used was a high-powered weapon, its report loud enough to shatter the stillness of the night for a mile around. Yet, the 6 members of the DeFeo family had died without a sound and without a single neighbor being disturbed. The evil that took root in that house that night was born in an impossible, deafening silence. 13 months later, the house stood empty, a monument to the tragedy within. It was put on the market for a shockingly low price, $80,000, for George and Kathy Lutz, a newly married couple looking for a place to raise Kathy's 3 children. It seemed like a dream. The house was magnificent, with a sprawling lawn, a boathouse, and a swimming pool. "It's perfect, George," Kathy had said, her voice full of hope as they stood on the lawn. "It's a forever home." The real estate agent had disclosed the property's dark history, as required by law. Kathy was hesitant, but George, ever the practical one, was resolute. "Honey, houses don't have memories," he had reasoned. "People do. We'll make our own memories here. Good ones." They bought the house, believing their love and laughter could exorcise the ghosts of the past. They moved in on December 18, 1975. Their dream would last exactly 28 days. The haunting began with a blessing. As a devout Catholic, Kathy wanted the house to be cleansed. She asked their family priest, Father Mancuso, to perform a blessing. The priest arrived on moving day, walking through the home, sprinkling holy water. When he reached the second-floor bedroom that had once belonged to the 2 murdered DeFeo boys, the atmosphere changed. The room became unnaturally cold, a deep, penetrating chill that had nothing to do with the winter air. As he began to recite the blessing, a deep, inhumanly powerful voice roared from the empty space around him, commanding, "Get out." The priest, terrified, fled the room. As he hurried down the stairs, he felt an invisible hand slap him hard across the face. He left the house without explaining what had happened, warning the Lutzes only to never use that upstairs room as a bedroom. In the days that followed, Father Mancuso was afflicted with a high fever and painful, blister-like sores on his hands. For the Lutzes, the house's malevolence revealed itself slowly, like a creeping sickness. George began to change first. A once cheerful and energetic man, he became sullen, irritable, and withdrawn. He developed an obsession with the home's large fireplace, spending hours staring into the flames, feeding the fire with an almost manic intensity. A constant bone-chilling cold clung to him, a cold that no blanket or fire could warm. And then came the wake-up calls. Every single morning, his eyes would snap open in the dark. He'd glance at the clock, and every time it read the same. 3:15 a.m., the estimated time of the DeFeo murders. The house itself began to wage a war of attrition on their sanity. Disgusting, unexplainable things became the norm. Thick, gelatinous green slime would ooze from the keyholes and drip down the walls. A crucifix Kathy had hung on the wall was found one morning spun completely upside down. The youngest daughter, 5-year-old Missy, began speaking to a new imaginary friend she called Jody. Jody was not a sweet presence. Missy described her as a pig-like creature with glowing red eyes. She claimed Jody could change shape and that Jody was angry the Lutzes were in her house. One night, Kathy was woken by the sound of Missy's rocking chair creaking back and forth in the empty darkness of her room. The physical phenomena escalated. The front door would be ripped from its hinges by an unseen force. Windows would slam shut so hard the glass would shatter. They discovered a small hidden room in the basement, painted entirely in a deep blood red. It wasn't on the house's blueprints, and their dog would cower and refuse to go near it, a low growl rumbling in its chest. The assaults became personal. Kathy would have vivid, terrifying nightmares of the murders, seeing them unfold through the eyes of the killer. She would wake up with painful red welts on her chest. On one occasion, she claimed to have been held down in her bed by an invisible force, unable to move or breathe. On another, George woke up to see her body levitating a few inches above the bed, her face contorted in a silent scream. He himself claimed to have been woken one night by a hug from an unseen entity, an embrace that felt like it was crushing the life out of him. The final night was the climax. The house, it seemed, had decided to stop playing games. According to George and Kathy, all the paranormal activity of the previous weeks converged into one final terrifying assault. The sound of a ghostly marching band, complete with drums and brass instruments, blared from the living room. The walls of the house seemed to breathe and shift around them. George, running to check on the children, came face to face with a tall, hooded figure at the top of the stairs. Its face was a void, and it pointed a single, skeletal finger at him before vanishing. They knew, with a certainty that went beyond fear, that the house was trying to kill them, or worse, possess them, just as it may have possessed Butch DeFeo a year earlier. They gathered their children, who were screaming in terror, and fled. They ran out into the freezing January night, leaving behind their furniture, their clothes, their wedding photos, their entire life. They piled into their van and drove away, never to return. The story of the 28 days at 112 Ocean Avenue became a media firestorm. Ed and Lorraine Warren, the famous paranormal investigators, studied the house and declared it to be a case of significant demonic infestation. Skeptics have spent decades calling it an elaborate, profitable hoax. But the question remains, what truly happened inside that house? What could be so terrifying that it would make a family abandon their dream and run for their lives, leaving everything behind? What do you believe happened in the Amityville house? Was it a true encounter with the supernatural or an elaborate lie? Let me know your theory in the comments. Don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who loves a good ghost story, and subscribe for more terrifying true stories.